Oh. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fridays at 5. I'm Karen Taylor of the Color Vowel Chart of the Color Vowel Approach. A lot of us here teach with the Color Vowel Approach. If you're new to the room, welcome. If you're new to watching our recorded session over on YouTube, welcome. Learn more about us at colorvowel.com. Every fourth Friday, we try to keep something either somehow alliterative. So this is fourth Fridays. We have this session called Ask the Linguist with Dr. Robin Barr. Hello, Dr. Barr. Good to have you. We sometimes throw in announcements, but I think we're going to just get started. And I thought, Dr. Barr, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with this little thing that came up in our private community, this little recording that Ji-Shen, we're so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I just looked at your recording, Ji-Shen, and this is going to be really interesting. I think I have the answer, but we'll find out.
So I'm going to play this little piece, and this gives us a little glimpse of our private group that folks join once they've either purchased Teacher Starter Kit or they've taken one of our courses, either our fast course or our complete course or somewhere later on. And so this is our private Facebook community. And Ji-Shen, who's here in the room with us, noticed something when he was listening to Blue Canoe. And Ji-Shen, did you notice it right away? I just have to ask you, and then I'm going to play it for everybody. Was it something you noticed immediately, or did you have to pay special attention to what you're about to show us you noticed?
No. When I was replicating your sound recorded in Blue Canoe, I have to purposely shift the way I sing or the melody. So I noticed it right away.
So part of this, I mean, what I'm going to stop that share for a minute. What excites me about this post is that it shows me, first of all, that Ji-Shen was really using Blue Canoe in the way that I've been training people to, which is to mirror with me, to actually say the sentence at the same time, listening carefully to the pitch, to the rhythm, and basically to hit every timing and pitch change in there as a way simply to practice. And so when you did that, you noticed what you needed to do. And as a speaker of English, but from a different part of the world than I am, you notice that your intonation would have been different. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's listen to it, and then Ji-Shen can share with us what he really noticed at that moment. So here is the recording of that piece in the app. Here we go.
This will take just a moment. This will take just a moment. This will take just a moment. This will take just a moment.
Ba 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 ba. Okay, so he noticed this because he flooded like we just did here. And then what was, before you answer this question, Ji-Shen, well, everybody's read it. I was going to see if anybody could tell what it was he was noticing, but it might be small for you. So if I play that just one more time in a moment, Ji-Shen, can you summarize what you noticed as different for you?
Yes, the pitch, obviously the melody in which I sing the sentence. So obviously the word that gets the highest pitch here is will. This will take just a moment. But if I were to say the sentence, I would have said it this way. This will take just a moment. So it is a completely different song or a melody, you see? So that is what I'm curious about.
And also I noticed several things, but I noticed, can you say that this will take part of it just one more time?
You mean using my accent?
Yep.
This will take.
This will take. Okay. And then the second part, just a moment.
Just a moment.
So there's a stress difference. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting differences.
Exactly.
Right. And so moment is differently stressed, and that's all neat. But what fascinated me in this question was that I never would have noticed that my voice goes up. So now my question for everybody in the room who's willing to try it, just say, this will take just a moment. Like, say it in your own way.
How do we do it without imitating you?
Huh? Right. Do you all go up on will before?
Sometimes I'll be quiet until everybody else gets a chance.
Yeah, I want to. So Anna, for example, we can. Yeah.
No, I thought yours sounded a little bit odd.
Can you say it for me?
This will take.
Say the whole sentence.
This will take just a moment.
I heard it go up. This is the thing. It's really fast. I heard this will take, I still heard it.
This will take, I don't hear it, but I mean, it's coming from me, so.
Yeah.
this will
It's the
take-
strangest thing. So
There's two things going on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Right,
the
yeah.
other
But I
thing
just
is that probably I would say this'll take.
Yeah.
Like I would connect it.
That's
aha.
That's what I did.
Not be
but
likely to say this will take.
That's what I did, but mine went up even with the contraction. This'll take. Yeah,
This'll take, yeah,
just a moment.
This will take.
This'll
This'll
take.
take.
And then I went to Youglish. So, I
Ah.
I like to
Ah.
go to Youglish for these things
Oh, excellent. Okay.
because, it excites me. And because then in Youglish, you get to hear, a variety of speakers and anyway, it's a whole variety. In this case, I've clicked all. So it's not just US or UK. It could, and there are actually several others. So this is what made me laugh though. Listen.
So I'm in edit mode, but I'm going to open in the desktop app. This will take just a moment.
This will take, she did it. It's very fast. And you can slow it down, by the way, to 5%. I mean, sorry, 0.5 and go back 5 seconds. Just listen to that.
So I'm in edit mode, but I'm going to open in the desktop app. This will take just a moment.
Isn't that cool? And then the next one,
Eyes are closed. This will
oh, he's trippy. He's doing like a meditation thing. So he uses one note on every word.
about. Our eyes are closed. This will take just a moment.
So no
You
raise
get-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this will just take a moment. I then sighed and said to Aubrey, this will just take a moment.
And that's a switch. So that's
Yeah.
where they actually changed the order of the words.
Mhm.
And so that was my third little realization. Now I'm going to be quiet, but from this will take just a moment to this will take, he says, this will just take a moment. That's what he says. This will just take a moment. And that changes everything, the word order.
For you,
So-
can you demonstrate again? This will just take a
Well,
moment.
he says it. He says, this
Yeah, I
will
want
just-
you to do it.
this will just take a moment.
This will just take a moment. So you went down on the will and up on the
Yeah.
just. Okay.
Okay,
you were
so
stressing the just.
thoughts on this, Dr. Barr? We've thrown a lot at you.
What, already? Okay. Two things. Number one, something called F0 declination. So the fundamental frequency is the basic pitch. And what happens is that at the beginning of your at the beginning of every utterance, everybody's voice is high and it goes down at about this angle, pretty much 45-degree angle in terms of pitch, because of our diaphragm. So as our breath gets small, as the lung capacity gets smaller and smaller, the pitch goes down automatically, which is why, of course, singers have to keep their diaphragm pressure up, and choirs go flat. But what's interesting is that our brains don't pay attention to the absolute pitch when we're processing the language. We look at the relative pitch. So this slant down turns into the baseline, so that something that goes above the baseline here, or goes above the baseline down further, may feel higher than something that is actually higher in pitch. So if I said, I want to go to the circus, it's actually, but circus has the highest relative pitch and the main stress in the sentence, even though the actual pitch of circus is lower than where you began, right? So next, so when you say, oh, the will is higher than the take, or the of moment, yes, that could be true in absolute terms. So if you say, this will take just a moment, even though the will is higher, it still has less stress as perceived by us than moment, because what we perceive is the amount of effort that you're putting into making the pitch higher at that point. So if your diaphragm, if your lung capacity is at the low side, then in order to get to this pitch, you have to exert yourself more than if you're doing the same pitch when you have more air in your lungs. Is that clear?
Well, can I do? I'm
Have you
thinking,
lost me yet? Okay.
well, let me ask this. Remember this, Robin? Years ago, when I taught a course with you, we had these little contours. And
Yeah.
what she did is she took, I'll take a flatter piece of paper here. She basically drew a line and said, okay, when this is just a straight on object, it's one thing, it goes down. But if you tilt it, this compensates for the lung capacity issue, right?
Yeah.
So now the straight line is still, I have terrible options here for paper. Okay, so here's my straight line. Everyone can see that. Something like this. And then you start to see, maybe my contour is off, but essentially this thing that was, this will take just a moment, like that.
Yeah.
When you compensate, you see that it still actually is the peak.
Right.
But it is a mental, there's a psychological accommodation going on there. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Because what your brain is doing is compensating for the other person's loss of air, and therefore you are, I guess you're using your mirror neurons to predict how much force they have to expend to get that higher pitch at the end of the sentence from at the beginning of the sentence. So in English, the main stress is usually at the end of the sentence, but even so, that's still a lower pitch than we started at, probably.
And I'm guessing Ji Shen, being a speaker of Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, is more sensitive to those pitches than we are, say, in North American English. I think you said as much, didn't you, Ji Shen?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's confusing factor number one. Okay. Confusing factor number two is that there is an intonation in English, a little bit in American English, and even more so in British English, I've discovered, or I shouldn't say maybe British English, but English as spoken in England, where the high pitch early in the sentence gives I don't even know what to call it, a concessive aura or a placating. It sounds very polite, but it also it means there's some kind of attitude on the part of the speaker. Anyway, when you hear it, you should suspect that there's something else going on besides just what the person is saying literally. So the example that is in Latifoget, I guess, the Bible for phonetics, is the difference between when do we get paid, when do we get paid, versus when do we get paid.
Mhm.
So I would like your impressions on what is the difference in tone or implication of when do we get paid versus when do we get paid.
Well, I can speak to, I've been trying to train my 12-year-old daughter in this difference for a long time. Like, why are you wearing that? Is what she used to say to me. And now I say, how about, why are you wearing that? You know, so much nicer.
Is that more polite?
It's less irritating than, why are you wearing that? And so it just definitely has come up in our family, family conversation.
Calling it a more English pronunciation reinforces the idea that the English are worried more about politeness or face, negative face. So, but on the other hand, if you say, when do we get paid versus when do we get paid, what is the presupposition in there's an extra presupposition in the second one, I guess, is what that high pitch indicates. What is that extra presupposition?
I was thinking that in the second one where when goes up, it's that if you're assuming you will get paid, you just don't want to know when. Whereas in the first one, you're maybe even asking, are you going to get, or are we going to get paid?
The first one is just a question. It's just, when do we get paid? Right? So there's no attitude about it. When do we get paid?
But I
But-
think I do hear attitude in it. I think like
Oh,
Anna,
because it's the absence of any kind of concessive.
exactly.
Yeah, okay. So the
Mhm.
fact that you're just saying it right out bluntly like that is also attitude. Okay, so it's not as affect free as it appears. But if
I
I
would-
say, when do we get paid?
Like you forgot, you don't know, you forgot the date when we're gonna get paid.
Yeah, okay, so I don't remember what that was.
Yeah.
And what about, when do we get paid?
There's
What's that?
worry.
Yeah, when do we get paid? When do we get paid? Yeah,
And then we have to, I think we have to add to all of this.
where are you going?
That there's a cultural
Where are you
frame
going?
around this too, that the ones we're citing and agreeing on, you see the people nodding in the room, we're all North American.
Right,
So then you move over to Malaysia where Jishen is, and those all shift into some other place, right? Possibly, or maybe not. And would you agree, Jishen? Is this a cultural set of norms?
The only thing that I can say is that this is what I hear in American movies, and I think the intonation does give a sort of added meaning to the sentence. Yeah, that's what I can say.
yeah, so there is an added meaning, and I think what it means is there's a presupposition there that is not there in the plain version, which just goes down until you get to the stressed syllable. But let's go back to Karen's example. And if you say, this will just take a moment. This will just take a moment.
This will take
This
just a
will
moment.
take just a moment. This will take just a moment. There's a presupposition there that's not in this will take just a moment. This will take just a moment. If I say this will take just a moment.
So for those who came to the room a little later, and they're a significant number, I'm just going to go ahead and play that one more time. Just hear it. Here we go.
This will take just a moment. This will take just a moment. This will take just a moment.
And the question was, why is it this will take just a moment? And was it just me on that day when I recorded this sentence, or is this a what do you call it? A sustained pattern? You know, would I say it the same way each time I say that?
And this is a very common pattern. I got this just the other day. Of course, I was thinking of things like this when I was getting injected with Novocaine at the dentist. He said, you're gonna feel a little pinch.
There you go.
You're gonna feel a little pinch.
You're
So,
gonna,
you're gonna feel a little pinch.
Yep.
Not, you're going to feel a little pinch. You're gonna feel a
it
little
sounds so
pinch.
threatening when it goes down. You're gonna feel a little pinch, you know, it sounds
You're gonna-
like,
And then he
Right, the
stepped on
reason-
my foot.
And why does it feel threatening is because you're not going up, right? So why did you go up?
to not feel threatening.
To not threaten somebody. So what does it do when you go up there like that? This will take just a moment. What are you trying to convey to whoever you're talking to?
Yeah,
it-
I think subconsciously I'm trying to soften their expectation. I'm trying to manage their expectations by softening my certainty. You know, there's a will there, and so it's something about the future tense, maybe that modal will.
Well, it's also but no, I mean you could say this
This
takes
is
just
gonna-
a moment. Yes, it'll make it hurt less. This takes just a moment.
Yeah,
This
this is
takes
gonna,
just a moment. You know, don't worry about it. I'm trying to placate you. I say, this will take just a moment.
yeah.
So, you know,
So did it hurt more or less?
I think it will hurt less, or at least you're trying to make me believe it will hurt less.
Yeah, it'd be transitory, temporary.
Right. Yes. You know, please wait. This will just take a moment. Please wait. Right. As opposed to, how long does this last? Oh, this will just take a moment, and the next one will take 5 hours. I mean, you know, whatever. If you're just saying the fact, But if what you're trying to do is let the person know that, no, please wait, it'll be okay. It's not going to take very long. So there's a presupposition that the person you're talking to is not happy or is
Yeah.
worried that it's going to take a long time.
So there's preparation for something that could be unpleasant, loss of time, pain, something else that's unpleasant. Well, that's neat.
So
Thank you for
so
listening.
there's
Jen.
something going on, and I love the Uglish example because I wonder what the meditative ones are doing, because they didn't go up, right?
Yeah, you're
This
saying
will
this
just-
will take just a moment.
This will take just a moment. This will take just a moment. So they're not raising your expectations or anything. I don't know what they're trying to convey, but you're right, it sounds robotic because the robot doesn't have a diaphragm. This will take just a moment. Right? This will take just a moment. That's why
I like
all
your
those-
linguistic explanation. The robot does not have a diaphragm. I'm going to
Yeah.
quote you on that. That's excellent.
Is it possible that this is related to the fact that it's a base verb form like take? So if I say, I have seen many problems, I have seen, I'm not really raising my voice on seen.
I could do that though. I have seen many problems. I have seen many problems. Notice I kind of get concessive when I do that. Many problems, right? I have seen.
I can tell
I've
from
seen.
the United States.
I've seen many problems. I might be able to do that. I don't know. Let's think about that.
So this is great. It's when I record
I
these.
just want to take a moment. So I think it's whatever comes after the head of the sentence that you have to go up. So even if you stick an adverb there, I just want to, yeah, I can do it that way too.
To me, a moment is defined as 90 seconds plus or minus 15.
I
And,
like that accuracy.
But Karen's moment might not be the same as my moment. So it's gauging my expectation. Do I need to go get a beverage or, something like that? Planning.
Yeah. Well, I'll be curious to know if you notice more of those, Jishen, and
Yeah, everybody else keep your ears open
because
because
it's not every sentence, and when I think about it, well, that's the whole problem, thinking about
yeah.
it.
Well, and also you can't think about it, and I mean, your brain won't let you think about it, right? Because your brain has to erase your knowledge of the pitch, the actual pitch, in order to understand the relative pitch.
And this
So
is
it
what
has to
I'm
erase
going to
both
say,
processes.
this notion of default, it's really a hard one. But what I know is that when I have to go in the studio to record, 200 sentences for Blue Canoe, you can imagine, I can't sit there and decide in advance and draw I can't. I mean, you'll never get done if you draw the contours and tell yourself where they have to be. I have to it's almost like, drinking a shot of whiskey. I just have to read those things and not think too much. I don't drink the whiskey, but figuratively. And so I take these sentences and I just take out my hand and I start reading them and try to listen at the same time. And so does the engineer. And then we highlight the ones that sounded really strange. And sometimes we laugh really hard when we listen through them. And then I re-record a couple so that I don't sound demonic or like I'm scolding somebody, or, there are a few times when it comes
And
out.
there might be
great.
contrastive stress based on what you have already recorded that doesn't really belong if you're
Exactly.
doing it.
Precisely.
Doug,
Sometimes
you had a comment.
Well, I think you might have answered it. I guess I was going to ask if Karen, are you going to do anything different as a result of this conversation? Because I think you teach what you know.
I think I can only provide a model that comes naturally to me. Like there's actually nothing wrong with my my model.
Right.
What's neat is that Jishen noticed something that's different from the way it would sound for a Chinese speaker of English in Malaysia or Southeast Asia, right? So that was a neat, I congratulate you for noticing it. And
Oh yeah.
it's fun that we can have this conversation.
What's interesting is that I think for most people, having to even to say this will take just a moment is a situation in which you would want to have that extra concession. This will just take a moment. This will just take a moment. But you're right, it does sound kind of threatening.
There is though, Doug, to answer that question a bit more. In general, when with these sentences that are in Blue Canoe currently, we try to provide, there's very little context for these sentences. One of the later lessons actually has 6 sentences that pertain to one another. And so they have more relationship as a discourse. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so if it's a discourse, then the intonation and stress may be very different.
Yeah, it allows for contrastive stress because there's something to contrast. Whereas I wouldn't want to do that in isolation. But in time, something everybody needs, we need to be able to sound polite. We also need to be able to sound frustrated or impatient when we need to. And so I look forward to having those opportunities with sets of sentences where we model how to sound angry or frustrated.
Yes.
We too
Absolutely.
often prepare our students to sound polite, but that's not the whole range of functions that we need to perform.
Shirley, did you have something to say? You looked like you were.
Well, I was just like, when Robin asked that, like, what does this mean, or what, I was like going through all these contexts, and context just popped up. It was like, whoa, okay, I don't know, it could mean maybe there's more meanings there, more context.
Yeah, well, that's what makes a good linguist. A good linguist can make almost anything sound grammatical because we can provide the weird context. Like famous example, my toothbrush is alive and is trying to kill me can be a grammatical sentence in certain worldviews. So that's a linguistics example.
Wonderful. Well, hey, this is Ask the Linguist. We're going to ask Dr. Barr some more questions. This is an opportunity. If you came with a question, please put it in the chat and we can start to look at those. There was also another agenda from the linguist herself, which is we've had this ongoing dialogue for the last several couple of months about the brain. And so, Robin, I think we want to give you a few minutes.
How many of you were here last time for the first bit of the brain talk where I had you draw stuff?
We were, a lot of us were here,
Yeah. So I know that didn't sound very linguistic, but what I was trying to illustrate was that it's not just language that works like this. It's not just language that where your brain suppresses the lower level processing that we can do in the right hemisphere, so the normal acoustic processing in the right hemisphere, and sends everything over to the left hemisphere to Broca's area, and Broca's area winds up dominating your processing for language, even if you're trying to learn a new language. Okay, so that's something that makes it difficult to learn a new language, especially after the critical period, or after your brain is less plastic, or however you want to think of it. That if you can fool your brain into thinking that it isn't language, or it's not only language that you're doing, then you have a better shot at allowing yourself to actually produce and hear the sounds that would be suppressed, or the difference between them would be suppressed by Broca's area. So for example, in English, say aspirated P versus unaspirated P, the difference between the P in pin and the P in spin, say, which is something you would have to be able to learn if you wanted to learn Hindi, say. Can
you elaborate on that, Robin, for those who are unfamiliar with that distinction?
Yeah, let me show my PowerPoint. Let me see if I can.
Can we just
picture?
Meanwhile, experience aspirated and unaspirated P?
Oh yeah, let's experience aspirated and unaspirated P. So if you hold your hand in front of your mouth and say pin, or a
Pin.
piece of paper like Karen is in front of your mouth and say pin.
Pin.
Yeah, and now say spin.
Spin.
If you're using
Pin.
the rules of English, then you will
Pin.
have an aspirated P in pin. There'll be a puff of air, and there won't be a puff of air when you say spin. Try it. Does it work?
Pin.
Pin.
Spin. Pin. Spin.
So,
Pin.
that's an example where your sensory apparatus can distinguish the difference between the P and pin and the P and spin, and yet our ears, or rather our language center, cannot distinguish it if we're speakers of English. But if you're a speaker of say Hindi or Thai, then it is very easy to distinguish those two sounds. And if you're an English speaker learning Thai or Hindi, it's very difficult, because you won't be able to tell. I forget what the words were. There's like pala and pala. One was a snake hood and one was a leaf. And so if you're walking through the forest and you say, oh, pala, should I run or not? Right? You could get bitten. Maybe it could be dangerous. So this is what the this is what it looks like in your brain. So if you have auditory processing here, if you are hearing the two words pala and pala, and your brain can hear, your right hemisphere can hear the difference between them. But if your brain thinks that this is a language, then it sends the information over to Broca's area, which says, we don't pay attention to the difference between aspirated P and P, so we're going to suppress that knowledge. Same with producing it. Your mouth can produce those two sounds, but when you send that control over to Broca's area, when you're speaking English, you must produce the aspiration at the beginning of a word, like pin, and you must not produce the aspiration after an S, like spin. And you can't. It's very difficult to reduce to reverse it. It's very difficult to produce an unaspirated P at the beginning of the word. In fact, try it. Try to say pin, a spin without the S, or pin without the aspiration. Bin, bin, and not turning it into bin, right?
Bin.
When you do that, actually, we perceive it as bin a lot of times, if it's even if it's unvoiced. So this is what's going on in your brain. Now, what I talked about last time was that this is something that I guess this came from a podcast that said, now I've forgotten exactly what it was, but says the right brain sees everything, and the left brain, so that the right brain is the commander, and the left brain is the servant, something like that. So the left brain has specific areas, and so the right brain sends things over to the left brain for doing specific things, but the right brain is the one that really is in charge. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's correct. And this is why I'm telling you this. So I disagree with what the podcast said.
But where was he? But was he saying that? I got the idea that both sides of the brain had specific things that they dealt with, including motor function. But that in addition to that, like another layer is that the right side of the brain also had the more global perspective.
So a lot of
I saw it as being something in addition, like not that the right side of the brain, that there are no specific things going on over there. I didn't get that idea from what they were saying.
It's true that the right side of the brain is more global or holistic or gestalt. It sees things in large chunks. The question is that a function of something in the right brain, or is that what both sides of the brain would be like if there weren't these specific areas like Broca's area and so forth for particular functions. Okay, so yeah, the master and his emissary. So the master is the right side of the brain, and the emissary is the left side of the brain. And I don't agree with this concept of what the two different sides of the brain are for. And so yeah, so here's the, in the chat, here are the links to the podcast. So let me show you what we talked about with the development of art in children, and also the savant syndrome. And I can show you, I can remind you of this, or review this a little bit. So what we looked at was the development of art in kids starts out with a scribble, and then we get lollipop trees and tadpole people, and then we get a schematic stage, and then pseudo-naturalistic stage. So the development of art is starting with symbols and getting closer and closer to naturalism. So closer and closer to what it actually looks like on the retina. And this is so by age 16 or so, if you're a good artist, like Picasso, this is Picasso age 9, that you are, we say, oh, he's really good at drawing horses, right? So this is a very good, he's very good at art because he's closer to reality. Of course, that what he did later was diverge from reality, but he could be very realistic first. This is when he was 14. Picasso drew this one. So, but then we looked at the development of art in children with autism, who start right out age 3, being able to do very naturalistic art. And this is age 5. What's going on here is that these children are using the right side of their brain to draw with, and they are drawing exactly what's on the retina. And this is from memory, by the way. This is a picture of the London skyline from memory by this 4 or 5-year-old. And he just remembered everything that he saw, but he would not be able to identify the different places because to him, it's just shapes on the retina. Okay, so if you were drawing this, maybe you would draw St. Paul's or something separately from some other building, and maybe you would leave out some buildings that were not important to you. Okay, so that's an example of the left side of the brain, which does this part of the brain. I would say in the posterior portion of the temporal lobe will do symbols. So when somebody's using their left side of the brain to draw, they will draw shapes. They will draw things that are not in perspective because they know what they're supposed to look like, and they will get confused by illusions like the Muller-Lyer illusion, the 2 arrows that are at exactly the same length. Let's see if I have an example of that. No, I don't. But I can pretend to show that you've probably seen this. Let me use the.
Here, I've got that for you.
Oh, you have a Muller-Lyer illusion?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. How did you find that so fast? There it is. So so people in at least Western urban civilizations are easily confused by this effect. For most people, which line looks longer to you, the top one or the bottom one? For which line segment?
Top one.
The top one. And what's interesting is that subjects from non-urban, non-Western societies, like somebody from the plains of Sudan or something, will not be fooled by this and will think that the two are the same. So the question is, why is it that we perceive these differently? And the claim is that this top one looks like a corner in perspective, and so we're used to seeing on our retina square buildings with corners and rooms with corners that look like this, in which this wall is longer or the same distance as these yes. So the top corner is going to be longer if you're looking at it from as if it were perspective. So it's going to be further away, and it looks shorter, but it's actually long. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So, but that's something that the left brain is imposing on your actual understanding of on your visual knowledge of how long the thing is. So if you let me show you this interesting effect. Can you all see what this is? This is an example of transcranial magnetic stimulation. Okay, so Alan Snyder has been using transcranial magnetic stimulation. You take this magnet and you stick it on whatever part of the brain you want to inhibit, I guess, and you run a magnetic current through it. It's kind of so it disrupts all the neurons, and so when you turn off that part of your brain, then the parts of your brain that have been inhibited up to that point are able to be free and do their thing. So he said, oh, we can he says we can temporarily inhibit the neural activity of some part of your left brain and let your right brain go free. And so he has people, artists who are able to draw much better during the time that they are feeling the effects of this transcortical, transcranial magnetic stimulation. It says creative breakthroughs. People have creative breakthroughs. They also have temporary savant type abilities. So he inhibits the logical mathematical part of the left side of the brain, and suddenly they can do like Rain Man. They can count 150 toothpicks at once, or they can do all these amazing numeracy mathematical abilities that they can't do when they're actually trying to use math to do it. And for me, that's very similar to what's going on with learning a second language. I don't think he's used this for learning a second language or for imitating an accent, but imagine if you could disable Broca's area temporarily and then try to imitate and repeat what the language that you're trying to learn. Maybe that would be effective. I don't think I want to do this. Okay. I would be really afraid to do that, but there's a lot of interesting research on this by somebody at Duke.
If someone else wants to volunteer.
Yeah, well, it's gotten easier and easier to use this technique, and less painful. I understand, and so people are using it for depression or for recovery from stroke. People have also been trying to use it for autism, and there are real ethical issues there, I think, because especially if you're looking at children with autism, we don't know what effect it has on the developing brain. We don't know what it can be painful. It can cause seizures. I mean, there are real issues with using these indiscriminately. But unfortunately, these are getting a lot easier and easier to get. So there might be people out there who set themselves up to do this sort of therapy or research, and I worry about that. One thing I want to go back to is this particular autistic artist who drew these very complex horses. Yeah, here's more of her work. She was alinguistic, so she did not have language. And when this book was written, she started gradually to acquire language around the age of 12, at which point her ability to draw like this declined.
Mm.
So what is the connection there between language and art? What the author of the book said was, well, once she started to use language, then she did not need the art for communicating. I think it's more basic than that. I think that acquiring language showed that she was developing her left hemisphere just later than a neurotypical child would. And as her left hemisphere developed, so did the symbolic nature of the of art. And so she wound up developing the way, developing art the way the 2-year-old and 3-year-old would, who have the symbols with the lollipop trees and so forth. She went through that stage, but because she had the motor coordination before she had the symbolic suppression of what was actually on the retina, she could copy what was on her retina very accurately as a child. And it's the acquisition of symbols that suppressed her ability to do this. There are all kinds of, I guess, I think I talked about this last time, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. Mm-hmm. Excellent book. There are all kinds of techniques and classes on how to recapture your ability to just see what's there without without knowing what's there. So you see it, but you don't observe it, right? That sounds like Sherlock Holmes, but if you actually pay attention to every single thing you're looking at and not suppressing the unimportant or irrelevant or culturally useless information, then you can reproduce the actual image that's on your retina. Same with the way you can reproduce the actual sounds that are out there that somebody is speaking. This is a classic exercise to override your left brain. Is you do upside down drawing, and ideally you would put a piece of paper over this and just reveal it from the top down and copy it exactly. Just copy the lines themselves. And if it's upside down, you don't recognize what it is until maybe you get down to the other to the bottom of the page, and then you turn your picture over and you've done an excellent copy of Picasso's sketch of Stravinsky. Why does this work? Because when you're looking at it upside down, you're not seeing it as a picture of a person. You're just seeing it as lines and shapes. Same with this illusion.
I was just drawing this up, Dr. Barr. This is perfect.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the face upside down, you're not bothered by anything that you see here. But when you turn it right side up, suddenly, yeah,
it's very disturbing.
You realize that the one on the right is just really zombie-like and appalling, whereas that didn't strike you as that weird when you looked at it upside down, because when you're looking at it upside down, you weren't looking at it as a face, and you weren't expecting to see, the mouth looks okay, the eyes look okay, and you're not looking at the context. Whereas here, suddenly it's just horrible.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Horrible. So tell us, we have about, 8 minutes before the top of the hour. Can you thread this back to language teaching?
Yeah. Okay. So here's an example of what goes on for the when a brain recognizes objects. You've got your memory for shapes is up here in the right hemisphere, left field vision, right field vision in the occipital lobes. But if it's a shape that is culturally important, it will get sent to this part of the brain, and the symbolic knowledge is going to override what your retina can do. Let me go back to where was it? Oh yeah, the creepy electrical stimulation of the brain. What they discovered is other examples of inhibition that you can remove are things like object recognition, like we just looked at, reaction time. They call it addition by subtraction. So removing the part of the brain that is specific for processing that particular thing allows the rest of the brain to reveal its low-level processing. So this is not just a right brain, left brain thing, although most of the higher level processing is in the left brain, but there's some higher level processes that are in the right brain, like intonation, face recognition, some shape ability to move shapes around. So what I would say is that it's not a left brain, right brain thing. Rather, it's a specialized brain versus unspecialized brain, or higher level processing versus lower level processing distinction. And that means that what's going on with language is that, again, Broca's area is specific for the particular language that you've learned, but the other parts of your brain are able to access what's actually there, the lower level processing, so the acoustic level as opposed to the phonetic level, let's say. So when you're teaching a language like English, the more you can involve the other parts of your brain in learning that language, the more likely you are to be able to become conscious, I guess is what I want to say, become conscious of those parts of the language that Broca's is trying to hide from you. Does that make sense? Okay, so what we're doing is raising awareness. So the fact that Jishen was able to sing, this will take just a minute. But by removing the words, which I just did with the kazoo, now we are suddenly able to hear the pitches as actual pitches in their real position, as opposed to if I say this will take just a minute, we feel that the meh of minute is the highest pitch, simply because it's the one that we have to push harder to produce. And the same with, using your hands and using the colors and all of that. So what we're trying to do is get at the low-level process, allow our brains to understand the low-level processing. Bye now.
Yeah.
No, now, not now.
Bye now. Well, let's use our brains as we finish up. I don't know. I'd love to hear a rhythm, since you have the kazoo and I don't today. I'm looking at it. But give us a little rhythm, and let's just do a little bit of finish out with a brainstorm here in the chat. If you can list a phrase or a word that has the rhythm and intonation that Robin plays for us. You pick it, Robin.
Okay.
What are we putting it in the chat?
Yeah.
Sure. Or you could say it, I guess.
Mhm.
I'd like
I'd like to drink coffee.
Coffee.
I was thinking, I hope that you like it.
I
Mm.
hope that you like it. I hope that you like it.
I'd like to drink coffee. I hope that you like it. So it
I'm
might not
going
be
to the
that
store
done.
now.
I'm
I'm
going
going to the store now.
Okay.
I don't understand this.
Mm.
I like that. I don't know. Now notice I could have done it. I don't understand this, but it's I don't understand this. So this is the intonation that Jishen was pointing out, right? We thank
Yeah,
you for coming.
Well, and I think it's a nice touch point. I don't think I've said it, but we know that Mandarin, everybody knows that Mandarin is a tonal language, but it's not so often that we characterize English for what it is, which is it's a intonation sensitive language.
Yeah.
So we convey all kinds of mood and intent through these subtle intonation contour shifts. So I don't understand this is different from
I don't understand this.
Right.
I don't understand
this. I don't understand this. So yeah.
If I say I don't understand this, does that sound angry? Maybe.
Yeah.
It's less concessive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't understand this, and it's your fault. If I say I don't understand this, it's my fault. Maybe.
Yeah. And then we could flood this. So I mean, I've done this with learners, and it's always illuminating to know what people hear in their mind. But we could flood it if we want to, just like a little therapeutic ending to our Friday. You can mute yourselves and you can go with me and say it yourself with me. But it's, what is it again? Ba 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 ba. I like to drink coffee. I hope that you like it. I'm going to the store now. We thank you for coming. I don't understand this. I like to see you next time. That doesn't fit.